Steve, I was really scared of having a private lesson. Thank you so much. You have completely changed my mind and my view of what tennis coaching is all about. Welcome, as always, to the My Tennis Coaching podcast. I'm your host and founder of mytenniscoaching.com, Steve Whelan. And that was the reflection of a player quite recently who had a private lesson. And the player in question is an adult player, only been playing 12 months, has been coming to some of my doubles masterclasses at a club in which I do a little bit of work for. And they asked a few weeks back, could they have a private lesson? And I obviously agreed. We had the lesson a few days ago, and the player started off quite quickly, sort of saying to me, okay, um, we can work on whatever you want to work on in terms of me. And so I was like, no, hang on. It doesn't quite work that way. Where you're at now with your tennis. Yeah. Like, tell me a bit more about your tennis journey. Where do you want to be? Like, that's my job, is to get you from A to B. Like, it's not about what I want. It's about what you want. And they sort of said, okay, been playing 12 months, had a few private lessons, didn't enjoy the private lesson. And I sort of just asked, okay, why didn't you enjoy the private lesson? And they said, well, the coach was trying to get me to play these really big loopy forehands, big takebacks, big follow throughs. And I just didn't feel like I had the skill or the experience to do that. And I wasn't prepared to drop down to almost a beginner level and then work my way back up. And the player, he can play, he can get the ball back in court. He's quite consistent, doesn't really miss many shots. And he said, well, the coach kind of knocked my confidence a little bit. And I just decided that coaching wasn't for me. I just was going to go out and play. And after the lesson, his previous coach lesson, he went and played. He was encouraged to come to the group tennis coaching that I was running, only on the basis was someone told him, listen, Steve doesn't work on technique. He just sets up situations that we just play. And the player was like, okay, I quite like just playing tennis. And after it's been maybe 8-9 weeks, he then asked for a private lesson. So that was the first thing. And I said, well, you know how I work. I'm not going to work on technique. And what do you enjoy doing in terms of your tennis? Like, how do you enjoy playing tennis? And he said, well, I like being quite defensive. I like just sort of getting the ball back and rallying from the baseline and frustrating my opponents. And I've got a pretty good first serve when it goes in. Classic. My second serve isn't that great. I just get it in. And that's how I like to play. I like to really be quite aggressive with my serve, and I like to get the ball in from the back. That's okay, great. Let's make that even better then. That's what we'll do going forwards. And he said, oh, great. So what do we work on today? And I said, well, whatever you want to work on. And he said, well, let's do a little bit of work on serve. So we did some work on the serve, and he had quite a classic, what I call club serve. And this is no disrespect to club players, but very low ball toss, very flat, very hard, and very inconsistent. Because obviously when you're working within those margins of a very low ball toss, very, very low racket face contact, and it's very flat. Okay, he's not going to be the most consistent person in the world. Contact pointed a little bit all over the place, and it's just more about sheer brute strength. And positives, though, he had lots of racket head speed. Like, the guy could generate a lot of speed from a very short, sharp swing, and grip wasn't too bad, quite forehandy, but very effective. Could definitely serve tee, serve body quite effectively. Okay, well, great. Let's warm up first. So we start hitting some tennis balls from the back, and he's consistent. After a couple of goes, the balls start going a little bit shorter. So he was maintaining good length, and just watching him down the far end, guy doesn't breathe. So the guy holds his breath when he plays. He hits the ball goes away, and then he breathes out. And I just said to him, okay, how's your breathing? When you play, do you breathe much? He's like, well, I've never really thought about it. I said, well, have you ever tried breathing out when you hit the ball? And that's why players make silly noises. Said, no. Why not? So the player goes off and starts breathing out. Doesn't quite make noises, which is fine. Doesn't have to be as noisy as me. If you ever see videos of me coach, I'm always making noises. And then like we have a few goes and he starts to maintain length. He's like, oh my God, like that's amazing. I said, well, it's not really. It's called breathing. It's quite important, breathing. Don't breathe, you die, is my classic quote. I said, but you have to understand the impact of the body that when you don't breathe. Like you don't breathe, the body starts getting tight. And when you start getting tight, the ball will start landing short because you start slowing the racket down. The racket won't go back as far. So breathing's quite an important thing. And everything we do with our movement is always related to our emotional state. Tip number one is like, oh my God, I've never thought about that before. That's absolutely amazing. Not really. It's human behavior. And so we warm up. He hits some serves. And again, I just say to him, okay, let's play some points. You're serving all the time. Hit some serves. Play the point out. And serves quite erratic at the start. And we talk on there, okay. But then we talk about, okay, what does a good serve look and feel like? And he goes, oh, feels effortless. Okay, well, let's look at that then. So if something's effortless, you don't put much effort in. So it's not brute force. So can you maybe be a bit smoother? And I use my classic Navy SEALs line. Fast is smooth and smooth is fast. Okay, let's just be smooth. Let's sort of increase the racket head speed through the ball, not be quick on quick. Let's start slow, go into quick as you go through the ball. Start to get a little bit more success. But still not quite there. And again, what I'm looking at here is behavior. And he doesn't take his time in between serves. He sort of serves boom, then serve boom, then serve boom. There's no time in between. And so again, I want to bring awareness to that. And I sort of say, okay, well, did you watch Wimbledon last week? Yeah, I did. Yeah. How much time do players take in between points, especially when they're serving? I think he said about 45 seconds. Well, it's not quite 45 seconds, unfortunately. It's a bit shorter than that, maybe 20, 25 seconds. But do you see players step up and serve, or do they maybe take a break in between? They'll take a break in between. And what type of things do you see them do? Oh, Djokovic bounces the ball a million times. Nadal does the whole brushes his hair, picks out his wedgie and stuff. Okay, why do you think players are doing that? To relax, maybe to plan what they're going to do next. Yeah, potentially. It's probably to make sure that they're ready to serve emotionally. Because again, even the top players will get nervous and anxious. And what I want to do over the next couple of goes is just take your time. Take your time. Try and get into a nice, relaxed state. Because again, emotion's going to dictate how we move. So let's try and be relaxed. And whatever you do at home to relax, let's try and bring some of that. He said, I have a few drinks. So maybe not. You can't really drink, but have you got kids? He's got kids. Okay, what do you tell the kids to do when they're super excited or they're very anxious? Or tell them to breathe. Well, again, maybe just focus on your breathing. And he goes away, and we carry on playing points. And guess what? He does it, and his serve starts going in. He starts getting more success with the serve because he starts to relax. And he's like, "Oh, I've got this now. I've got this. Okay, okay, great. Let's ramp it up a little bit now, though, because like." Serving especially is all about dealing with the situation, dealing with the emotions, dealing with the score, with the environment, your opponent. So the next game we're going to play is one of my classic ones. You're going to serve all the time. We're going to play the point out. But to win the set, you've got to make 4 serves in a row. And they have to be first serves. You only get a first serve. Has to be a match-ready first serve. But you've got to make 4 in a row. Okay. So straight away it goes out. And classic again goes back to his previous behavior of rushing it between points. And the question is, okay, what's happened to the behavior? It's changed. I've noticed a change. Have you noticed a change? I'm rushing again, aren't I? Okay, so what's caused that? What's influenced that? The fact that we're playing to a set. Okay, so the score has an influence on you. Is it a positive influence, and has your behavior changed for the right reasons? No. Okay, well, let's start taking our time a little bit more. So he starts taking his time a little bit more and starts to get a little bit success. Doesn't get past level 2. Serve's still quite erratic. And because we're now playing points, the server, the player, is now starting to throw the ball a little bit behind his head. and a bit closer to him because he's nervous because he wants to get through the set. And this is where the constraint-led approach comes in. And what would be the classic thing to do? Tell the player to throw the ball in front. Tell the player that the ball toss is too low and they need to throw it in front and strike it down. That's interesting because we stop it. And we stop it because he intervenes. He says, I'm throwing the ball. The ball's too low. I think I need to throw the ball higher. And I was like, okay, well, I don't need to think about how you're doing things. So I don't want to bring internal focus of attention. Let's really focus external. What are you aiming for at the moment? So I'm aiming just in at the service line. Okay, let's aim past the service line. So hit the serve past the service line. Now, what I'm trying to do here is get him to strike the ball down a bit more. So get the ball tosser further in front. So my thinking is if he aims a little bit further, he may start to strike the ball down. The opposite happened. He threw the ball further behind his head because he was trying to get distance. Okay, and that's okay as a coach. I haven't quite got the effect that I want. I haven't quite manipulated the practice enough. I was trying to give him an external focus of attention by trying to get him to go further forwards. That's okay. Now, I didn't panic in that situation, and I would have panicked a long time ago, and I just told him to throw it in front and gave him the solution. Deep breath by the coach. Okay, on the next one, I want to serve from the mini orange line. So the mini orange line is about 3/4 court. It's between the service line and baseline. So I want to serve from there. The serve still has to go in the box though, but I want you to serve from there for the next round. Boom, we start serving him in. Because I've brought him closer in and the net's a little bit closer, he sees the angle a little bit differently, so he feels like he can strike the ball down a little bit more. So he starts to get a fair bit of success. Okay, now what we need to do is go one from the orange line, one from the baseline. They both got to go in to go up the level. Now he starts getting more success because he's now calibrated the body to strike the ball a bit more in front. And the only cue that I gave him is, can you get the ball to travel a little bit lower? And he's like, what? Throw the ball lower? No. After you touch the ball, can you get the ball to travel down quicker? Because again, I want him to strike down a little bit more in front. I want to manipulate his ball toss. Because he's got such a flat serve, I want him to just really think about striking the ball earlier, striking the ball in front and try and get the ball down. He gets enough height on the ball toss to get up and over the net. It's still not going to be highly consistent. But what I said to him was, well, your first serve has to be 6 out of 10 anyway. And at the level you're playing with, it's like we're in the 4 out of 10 range. So we're not a million miles away. And the idea is, the thinking is on the second serve, okay, we'll then start to manipulate a bit more spin. And he starts to get success. Yeah, it's not instant. And we end the lesson, and that's when we have the chat. And he's like, okay, how do you find that? He's like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, you've really restored my faith in sort of tennis coaching. And then he just told me a bit more about the other coach. He said, well, the other coach, they just wanted to completely change my game. They told me that my strokes weren't correct and I needed to change my ball toss and change my elbow of the racket, and my forehand, my take back was too short and I need to make it bigger. And it just really put me off. I just didn't think I had the skill to do it. And it really put me off coaching. And my reply is, as always, is not to absolutely condemn the coach. Again, the coach is probably doing the best intentions there. They're probably doing the best job they can with the knowledge they have. And I just say, well, I see coaching differently. I see a coach's role is to renovate, not to demolish and rebuild. So whatever you come with me today, I'm going to work with that. I'm going to work with that and make it better to the level in which you play. You do not need a really high ball toss and a complete chopper grip and a 90-degree elbow position. Because that's not how you've learned how to play tennis. I'm looking at the player's intrinsic dynamics, their coordination preferences of how they play. He likes a low ball toss. He likes the ball compact. He likes to strike it. Okay, well, let's just work with that. So I'm looking at what the player's got. I'm looking at, can I make the player the best they can be with what they have today? And all I looked to do in the session was, one, get them to have a bit of confidence and serve from a much more calm position, hence the breathing and the taking the time. And then looking at the movement solution, okay, yeah, ball toss is too far behind him. Okay, if he strikes it more than front, he's going to get more balls in. And I just manipulated the game in a way in which he found the solution himself. So again, as always with these podcasts or videos, it's not to say, oh my God, look at me, I'm so great. But hopefully I'm giving coaches out there, okay, there's different ways of thinking. Do not destroy a player's serve and then look to rebuild it. And the old expression of old dogs, new tricks. Well, especially with adults, we have to understand that their intrinsic dynamics, their coordination preferences, they've had them for 40, 50 years. Again, I don't know how old this guy is. He's not that much older than me, but he's had it all his life. So if I go in and give him a coordination range that is completely outside of his range, he's not going to enjoy it. He's not going to be able to do it. And with things like intrinsic dynamics, coordination ranges, I can move it a little bit up and down, but I can't make it too extreme because then the player loses everything and you're more likely to cause injury or complete lack of confidence. So I just thought I wanted to share that story on this podcast. I think it really highlights sometimes coaches, we have the great intentions of fixing and building players. But that's a classic example of the damage it can do because that player didn't think the coaching was a positive experience. And again, I'm sure the coach had the best intentions. The coach, again, I don't really know the coach that well, but the coach may just have this, again, technical mindset of, okay, if I fix technique, everything else is going to work. They're not taking into consideration the physical or psychological capability of the player. And that's why, following ecological dynamics, I look at it completely different. Can I get them into a better emotional state? And then can I get them to find a slightly better movement solution with what they have? Let me know in the comments. Spotify now allow you to leave comments below. So let me know in the comments what you think. Was I right? Obviously, I've had a positive experience. Will the player run into major issues later on because we're not getting the ball toss higher? We're not getting him to chop a grip and so on and so forth. Let me know. And that's what this channel is all about. This channel is all about getting to think differently about coaching, but also helps me self-reflect and helps me think about my coaching. And again, there's elements of the session that I think I can do a little bit better on as well, in terms of maybe the wording. Then I think the amount of interventions that we had may be a bit too many, but that's all about learning and growing as a coach. Until next week, please check out mytenniscoaching.com. If you are interested in seeing videos of me coach lessons like this, I'm just currently uploading over 100 drills and practices onto My Tennis Coach Academy. So My Tennis Coach Academy is my premium membership service on mytenniscoaching.com. You can find the link under the Coach Mastery tab. And just for $25 a month, you can get access to webinars, interviews, practice designs, downloads, just so much content in there, and it's growing each and every week as well. So if you are interested in thinking differently, trying to be a bit more efficient and effective as a coach, please do check out mytenniscoaching.com and My Tennis Coach Academy. Until next week, speak soon. Steve, I was really scared of having a private lesson